And welcome to Amerex Connections, our podcast where we are introducing our teammates to industry professionals in the field. Today, we are talking to Jamie Knowles. Jamie is the Industry Relations Manager for Amerex. Jamie, welcome. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, David. Nice to work with you today. I'm our Industry Relations Manager, and I've been with Amerex for about 9 years or so. It'll be 10 years coming up in December. And I've been in the fire equipment business my entire career. I have a pretty interesting path through our industry, not very traditional. I didn't go to college. I started in fire equipment when I was 14. I went to a Navy boot camp when I was a Sea Cadet, discharged my first high-performance fire extinguisher onto a JP5 fire, and I was hooked. Addicted to the industry and have been working in fire protection ever since. When I got out of high school, I was a shipboard firefighter in the Navy for 4 years. After that, I got a job in distribution, installing kitchen fire suppression systems, industrial dry chem systems, and fire extinguishers. And then worked my way through distribution in a couple of different companies, doing everything from managing technicians to installing systems, servicing fire extinguishers. And then in 2010, I came over to the manufacturing side of the business, and I've been working my way through this side of the business since then. So, and I've been a sales manager, I've been a product manager, and now I am our industry relations manager, and that functions fairly new for Amerex in the last couple of years. So I am kind of corralling that job into a whole thing now at the moment.
Right. Well, it definitely sounds like it is in your blood, without a doubt. Now, you mentioned that the industry relations is a relatively new position. Can you describe a little bit of that?
Yeah, I like to call it reinvigorated. This was done by my predecessor, Craig Volkert, but he handled both our fire investigation and industry relations. And then when he retired, we kind of dispersed that around the building, and a few people did that role. And now I'm humbled to be able to do most of that role that Craig did. Our fire investigation is with Derek Wester, right, as you know. But the industry relations part has been very interesting for me to take over. And it puts me in a position where I can really represent the company to our distributors, right, and then represent distribution and the different code committees and stuff back to our business. So it's a role that I enjoy quite a bit.
Okay. Interesting point you bring up there. Now, how does that really affect Amerex as far as code enforcement and code developments and so forth?
So we sit on several different NFPA committees. The biggest one for us is NFPA 10, right, and us working essentially, we need to be able to protect where fire extinguishers are used in the industry, right? When new buildings are built, we want to make sure that fire extinguishers are a big part of those building plans because they're an essential part of a layered fire protection program. So my job is to make sure that when the fire codes are written, right, or adjusted or debated, that we protect our place in those fire codes for sure. Recently, NFPA 10 just went through its last cycle, and they'll be issuing NFPA 10 2026 in the fall. And we went through a good debate and added some new things to the standard this time around. And specifically, there's a thing called a performance-based inspection program that got added. And that's new to the whole industry. Right? As you know, fire extinguishers have to be inspected by their users once every month or so, once every month, not to exceed 30 days. And then they're inspected and maintained every year by our fire equipment distributors. Well, the healthcare lobby, in this particular case, came to the code committee, came to NFPA 10, and put in public inputs to add a performance-based inspection program so they could extend it from 30 days out to maybe 90 days. And we worked very diligently in that committee to create responsible rules around that inspection so that if it does go to 90 days, there's a reason for it going to 90 days, there's a justification for it going to 90 days, and there's a checks and balances in place, right? And it ultimately has to be approved by the AHJ. So we went through and negotiated that in the committee meeting, added the language to the standard, and then somebody in the standard stood up and said, we don't want that anymore, right? And they produced what's called a NITMAM, and I have to get this right. It's a notice of intent to make a motion, which turns into a certified motion. And those motions are voted on by the entire NFPA population. membership. So what happened is they came to the NFPA committee. They wanted to sort of tear out all the hard work we had done in the committee and line it out, and then just add a 90-day inspection without checks and balances. So we had to put a coalition together of people from NAFED, from the state associations, from the manufacturers, from fire equipment distribution, to go to Las Vegas to the NFPA meeting and vote against this and speak against this. And we did that. We were able to take that coalition, speak actively against these certified amending motions, and get them pushed back. One was withdrawn and one was rejected by vote. So what that really did is it forced that performance-based inspection program to be done properly, right? To be implemented in the new standard that'll come out in the fall, and then it'll be done properly so AHJs can approve it if it's warranted, right? And there are good guardrails around it. So anyway, so that's what we're doing in NFPA 10 these days, and one example of how what my job sort of affects our whole industry and Amerex.
Fantastic. Yeah, it seems like a lot of work going into it. Now, also, I presume you have some interface with UL, test standards and so forth that are applied?
Yeah. So we serve on Amerex itself serves on a lot of different things, and there's two division there. We've got our NFPA committees, right, and then we've got our UL standards. So if we start with the UL standards, the standards are the test standards that all of us manufacturers test our products to. So in this case, I sit on UL 300. I sit on UL 300 and UL 1254 that regulate pre-engineered systems. 300 for kitchens, UL 1254 is part of the controls of both pre-engineered dry chem and pre-engineered kitchen. We also sit on UL 299 and UL 711, which regulate the agents and the fire extinguishers that those agents go into. Right? And or set the standards for them more appropriately. Kendall Pate sits on those committees for us, right? He's an expert in the field, has been in charge of our engineering team for a very long time and does a nice job of representing us and, frankly, mentoring me in servicing those standards. So I sit on UL 300 and UL 1254, which set the standard for kitchen systems and industrial dry chem systems. The other side of that are the NFPA standards. The NFPA standards literally set the building codes or the fire codes across the country. And we sit on many of those, not just myself. I sit on NFPA 10 and NFPA 408, which are fire extinguishers and aviation fire extinguishers. But Amerex has several other committees that we sit in. Derek Wester sits on NFPA 30 and 33. Also, as well as NFPA 17 and 17A and 96. Then Bill Jobert sits on NFPA 120 and 122 for us. So Bill's business is the vehicle systems business, right? So NFPA 120 and 122 are underground hard rock mines and underground coal mines, right? So certainly that affects our vehicle systems business. Derek Wester, our fire investigator, right, who goes out to any of the situations that happen around our fire systems or our products, he sits on NFPA 30 and 33. That's storage of flammable liquids and paint spray operations. So that covers our IS system, right? And then he sits on NFPA 17, which is for dry chem systems, NFPA 17A, which is wet chem systems, and NFPA 96, which is for kitchen ventilation. So he really is the point person for us for our pre-engineered systems on those standards. So, but we've got it covered. We make sure we participate in all those important areas, not just for us and our manufacturing process and our products, but for our distributors that use our products in the field.
Good. Now, in addition to that, as if that's not enough, Amerex is a longtime member of Fire Equipment Manufacturers Association, which I presume is still an active role in what you do, as well as perhaps other associations.
Yeah, the Fire Equipment Manufacturers Association is a big part of what I do. That association, Fire Equipment Manufacturers Association, is interesting because our acronym is FEMA. But we are not the Federal Emergency Management Association. We are not them. So we get confused with them a little bit. Well, I actually like to push people to Fire Extinguishers Save Lives. If you go to that website on the internet, you're going to find FEMA. If you go to FEMA Life Safety, you're going to find FEMA, right? But we are a group of manufacturers that make fire equipment, whether it's cabinets or fire extinguishers or other types of of fire equipment. We manufacture that, and we represent as an organization to the industry. So we monitor fire codes across the country, ensuring that there are no substantial changes to those fire codes that could negatively affect the fire equipment that we manufacture and sell. That involvement takes us many places. A couple of examples of that are licensing additions to the fire codes around the country, both in Philadelphia and in Washington State. They have taken NFPA's lead, where it says that you have to have a trained and certified technician, and they've created real rules in the fire code around that licensing and certification. However, in both Philadelphia and in Washington, they missed the mark just a little bit. Right? They were trying to do a really great thing, but they required the right certification for kitchen pre-engineered systems. But when it came to pre-engineered industrial dry chem systems, they chose NICET 3 for special hazards and not the ICC NAFED certification for industrial dry chem. That ICC NAFED certification is targeted directly at industrial dry chem, and it's the only certification in the country that really tests the technicians on that subject directly, right? The NICET 3 in special hazards is a fantastic certification, but it is for high-level engineered systems designers that go to a job walk and see a large hazard that's multifaceted, and they design a fire system that's specific to that large hazard. It's not what we're doing with our industrial dry chem product. It's pre-engineered. So we are doing paint booths that are the same paint booth over and over and over and over again. So really that ICC NAFED certification is the proper one for that technician. And the NICET 3 certification, although great, is way more than we need. Right? So we found that in both locations, and we're fighting those battles in both locations. Philadelphia still hasn't finished. We're still in that discussion with them. But in Washington State, we were able to get that fire code changed and have it switched over to the ICC NAFED certification. That was a really reasonable position for the state to take, and a reasonable place for our distributors to be able to get certified to. So we've been doing that. The other example I would use is the state of Vermont. The state of Vermont is starting to talk about product stewardship, where they are tasking manufacturers to take care of product on the back-end disposal side of that. So we have to go through an exercise where we educate the state of Vermont and all the stakeholders on how easy it is to dispose of a fire extinguisher, so they don't include fire extinguishers in this disposal process, causing everyone extra money that nobody needs, right? Fire extinguishers are very easy to dispose of. Turn them upside down, discharge the nitrogen content. Everything after that is recyclable. Right, those are the battles we're fighting with FEMA. Just some examples of those. But yeah, we monitor across the country and then get involved when we need to, and then we drag in other stakeholders like NAFED and the other state fire associations.
Okay. Well, you mentioned state associations, and you know everything that we're hearing so far seems to be on a nationwide, if not global scale. But at a state level, what are some of the things you're involved in there?
So the state associations are a bit of a passion of mine. As I think everybody's heard the term, politics is local. And it is in the fire industry as well. At FEMA and on the national level, we do a good job of monitoring the local fire codes, but there's a lot of them. And a lot of movement happens before people on a national level are notified, right? When there's a state fire equipment association in place, they are close to the authorities having jurisdiction. They talk to them all the time. They talk to the state fire marshals. They talk to the contractors. They talk to the plan reviewers. And when there's a change in the fire code, they see it coming. They see it first. A lot of times they're involved in the decisions up front to bring that change forward. So we would love it if all 50 states had a state association. Right now, we don't have that many of them. We would love to have quite a few more. But what we have is a little organization called the 50 States Fire Community. In fact, in the next Inside the Diamond, look for an article by me about those state associations. So I just finished writing that this week. But we're a big fan of those state associations. They monitor the codes on a local level. They liaise with the authorities having jurisdiction on a local level. And they protect our industry right there where the rubber meets the road.
And I agree, that is a very, very important piece of the overall puzzle for our industry. Now, internally, you've got lots of things going on externally, outside of the four walls of Amerex.
Yeah.
But what are some of the efforts that you have currently going on directly in the facility itself?
It's education and communication. So we want our distributors to be able to responsibly use our product in the field and communicate the particulars about our product to the end users. So we're creating things like tech tips. So back in the 70s and 80s, the staff at Amerex at that time wrote some nice technical tips for technicians to use. We're modernizing those, right? Making them for this century. Right, and using those as foundational pieces that do things like say, you must use 100% Amerex parts to maintain your UL listing of your Amerex extinguisher. Then I'm writing blogs about different hazards. So we've got one out right now on aviation hazards. In that aviation hazard blog, we talk about 5 different instances across the country where Amerex fire equipment was used or potentially protecting an aviation fire. So I'm trying to write really educational pieces in our blogs, right, and really foundational pieces in our tech tips, and getting them out to distribution so that they can use those, right? If you're going to an airfield, you can pick up our tech tip, pick up our blog, read those, and it's going to point you in the correct direction and give you the good basics so that you can do the right job out there.
Before we wrap up, is there anything else that you would like to make everyone aware of? Anything exciting or new that you'd like to bring some attention to in our industry or perhaps even within Amerex?
As I was preparing for this podcast, it occurred to me that when I was giving my background, right, that in order for me to get where I am today, there was a lot of people that helped me get here, right? And that list of people starts, and this means nothing to anybody but me, it starts with Pat Daly, Jim Brady, Mark Capri, Ray Lefevre, Craig Volkert, and Jeff Henderson, right? Without those people on my path, I would not be sitting here today. Right? So the message I have is mentorship, is that you have to take care of our industry. It's our industry, right? Amerex is just one manufacturer, but we've got fire equipment distributors, other manufacturers, state associations, NAFED, everything. And all of these associations need to be populated with good people that have a good moral center and understand that what we do has got a little nobility to it. We protect lives, right, with fire equipment. And I look at all of you in the industry and I ask you, who are you mentoring? Who are you enabling that's younger than you to move up into our industry and take care of it after you're gone, right? And I think that if we all do that, that this industry will be in good hands when we go to retire. And I really think that that's a good objective. And that little rule matters or applies whether we're talking about inside of Amerex, whether we're talking about inside of a fire equipment distributor, or we're talking about inside of an industry association or a fire code or a standards committee, right? Who can you help enable to do this after you're gone, right? That's what we all need to do to keep this fire equipment industry of ours healthy and safe moving forward.
Fantastic. It's good visiting with you, and thank you for spending time with us today, Jamie.
Appreciate your time. Thank you, sir.
Absolutely. And thank you for joining us for Amerex Connections.